everybody, and welcome back to my channel. I am super proud to be bringing you the prompts this month for the Take 5 Art Challenge. For those of you who are new to my channel, welcome. The Take 5 Art Challenge is a collaboration between 12 ladies, and we live all around the world, and every month we choose 5 prompts which we share with each other and you guys, and we create some art with it. And so this month I am hosting the prompts, me and little Cadbury here, who jumped on my lap as soon as I turned the camera on, so I think he wanted to say hi. So the prompts that I chose this month are 5 of my most favorite things. I sat down to identify 5 things that I really love at the moment, and it was quite easy, and they came to me quite easily because these are things that really inspire me and that fill me with happiness. So the first prompt that I have is black floral. I am totally in love with black floral, and by black floral I mean a couple of different things, and it'd be interesting to see how everybody interprets this. I just love beautiful, bold flowers in any color surrounded by black. Or you can go the other way around and choose a very colorful background and then have the actual flower in black. So however you interpret it is how you interpret it, and I would love to see how it turns out. The second prompt is book pages, which is what I'm adding at the moment. I love books, I love reading, I love the smell of books, I love the feel of books, and whenever I go bargain shopping, Salvation Army, St. Vincent de Paul, etc., I always go straight to the book section looking for older books, hardcover books, books that I used to own as a child, etc., etc. So books are kind of like my passion, and I have a little library going on in my craft room. The next prompt is postal stamps, and these can be either the crafty kind, so I have a little collection of craft stamps that I use for my Happy Mail, or they could be real stamps, and I'm also a stamp collector, so I use them in my art and craft. The fourth prompt that I chose is an influential person in history. I cannot wait to see what everybody chooses for this, because obviously people influence us in different ways, and we look for influential people in different aspects of our life. So I'm going to share with you who I chose, and I cannot wait to see who you chose and how they've changed the world and how they've inspired you to be who you are. And last of all, a quote that means something to you at this stage of your life. Once again, I cannot wait to hear what you guys have chosen. There are so many amazing people who have said so many amazing and inspirational things in history, and the fact that I asked for it to be something that is suitable for you at this stage in your life just means that I'll get to know you a little bit better, and hopefully by identifying challenges in your life and finding comfort or strength in quotes, it will help you to get on and face your challenge head on. So let's get started with my art journal layout. I've basically gone ahead and added book pages along the border, and I've adhered them down with Mod Podge. Next, what I'm deciding to do is I've reached for this stamp set, which is a Bo Bunny postal stamp, and I'm just going to grab my archival ink and I'm going to stamp here, there, and everywhere, both on the inside page and on the book pages, just to create kind of like a feel. At this stage, I have nothing in my mind. At this stage, all I'm doing is I'm putting down objects that I love, trying to get a feel of how this layout is going to look like. I know the items that I'm going to be using, but I don't know how it's going to turn out just yet. So I am just playing with the things that I love until I kind of get going, if you know what I mean. Sometimes you just need to warm up and then you can run the race and win it. I'm reaching for my spatula and texture paste, and I just have a stencil here of a die cut that's from a Tim Holtz mixed media set, and I thought what I would do is put some of the stencil down on top of the book page so that you had book pages peeking out in between white raised areas, and I thought that this looked really lovely. And I had a little bit of a vision of back background that had been sanded back to reveal the book pages underneath it. So I kind of tried to achieve that. Didn't really go as I planned, but I kind of like how it turned out anyway. I might keep trying to achieve what I had in my head. I don't know sometimes if that's ever possible, but I try to go with it and have fun while we're at it. So I'm adding that in all four corners. So once again, it is around the periphery of the double page layout. I'm really proud to have chosen Nelson Mandela as my influential figure in history. I first became aware of Nelson Mandela in around the early 90s when he was released from jail. I was around 15, 16 years old, and everyone was making a big fuss about it in the news. My parents were talking about it, and I thought, who is this person? Why is he in jail? What's going on? And I soon learned all about Nelson Mandela. And I've kind of been watching his career ever since. And I also watched the whole world grieve for him when he passed away in 2013. And I too felt a sense of sadness that we had lost this amazing person who had seen so much in his life and stood for so much in his life. He was imprisoned for 27 years in the famous Robben Island prison in South Africa. And while he was there, he studied as well as kept memoirs of day-to-day activities. And there is a book out which I have just ordered called Conversations with Myself. And I can't wait to get my hands on this book because I can't imagine the kind of things that you would remember and think of and wish for when you are segregated from the people that you love and when you're jailed for believing in something such as freedom to be who you are. Obviously, there's so much history and there's a lot of politics in this, but basically this is someone who didn't want to be ruled by an outside party, and he fought really hard with his fellow freedom fighters to end oppression of his country. I will be talking about him more in a little bit, but I just wanted to show you the mess that I'm about to create now. At first, what I thought I was going to do was drip black acrylic paint, watered down acrylic black paint, down my page, let it meander through the texture paste stenciling so that I could still see the book page underneath it. And then I still had that idea of sanding back the texture paste to reveal the book page underneath it. I hated the drippage look here. It almost looked like black blood. I just really had an awful feeling about it. And I tried to add more and more watered down acrylic black paint to the very top there, but it just wasn't working. And so in the end, I got really frustrated with it, and I decided to just paint the edges of that right-hand side page black. I then decided that I didn't like the starkness between the white and the black. It was such a dark contrast that I decided to maybe just paint a little bit over it. And then I thought, well, I've lost the postage stamp. So I went back in and I re-stamped some of those postal stamps on top of the gray. And I actually don't like it in the end, so I'm going to change that in a minute. But I went ahead and plowed through. So I'm grabbing just a sanding block here, and I'm just sanding back some of this texture paste to reveal some of the book pages underneath the black. So that's looking really good. And so what I decided to do was add this vintage sepia brown color on top to color in the white of the texture paste. And I just love how this turned out. It looks like a real leather and it feels so amazing. I love how it turned out on the right hand side, and on the left hand side I'm also adding it, and it feels a little bit different on the left hand side because I haven't sanded back the texture paste on the left hand side. It kind of feels raised and a little bit bumpy, but on the right hand side on the black black, it's soft and smooth and it feels like leather, and it's just that little bit raised from the actual paper of the journal. So I just love how this looks. It feels like a real leather page. So I ended up putting black in the middle of that page and losing all that work that I did before, but that's fine because that work, you can see it on the left hand side, and the right page is now just going to be this black and brown, almost like leather look, which kind of reminds me of one of the handbags that I have, which is why I loved it so much. I'm going back in with a sanding block now, equalizing that black that I just added, and then adding some more of that vintage brown sepia on top. And I feel like I've got this leather page that I'm working with. It's just so beautiful. I love it so much. So I feel like I've got two looks here. On the right hand side, I feel like I've got like a black leather canvas that you can do whatever you want to. And on the left hand side, I feel like I've got this old antique book page that's been through the mail and it's exchanged many hands and it's seen many years, and it's kind of exactly the look that I was going for because that's kind of the feel of this whole page. So I've got the black part of the black floral down, and now I'm going for the floral part of the prompt. I have this die set that I bought from a local store here, and I think they buy some of their dies from these online stores. So what I'm doing is I've cut out the outline and the base shape, and I'm just trying it for the first time here. I've never used this die before, so I thought I'd see just how it works, and I love how it turns out. Gosh, I love the red flower with the black outline, but geez, I really love that black flower with the red outline. So I reached for this Graphic 45 colorful floral pattern paper that I have here, and I cut the outline with white, and wow, I really love how that looks. So I just sat here for about maybe 2 hours just going through some of my paper stash and making flowers and just having a really relaxing time whittling down that pattern paper stash and watching Netflix at the same time. So I'm now just going to start building this page so that I can achieve that black floral look. So Nelson Mandela was born in 1918, which makes him almost the same age as my grandma. My grandma was born in 1914. Nelson Mandela was just a normal person like you and me. He grew up, went to school, went to university, got married. It's the events that happened around him that shaped his decisions and turned him into the man he would become. In 1948, the Apartheid Act was established in South Africa, and under that regime, citizens were required to carry ID cards that categorized them as either white, black, colored, or Indian, and anyone who wasn't white was segregated, which is what apartheid means in Afrikaans. Mandela had studied law at university and was already a part of the African National Congress, and he and his like-minded friends fought against that regime. His methods were all nonviolent, which are evident when you look at what he was charged with. Recruiting people for training in guerrilla warfare for purpose of violent revolution, committing acts of sabotage, conspiring to commit acts and aid foreign military in invading the republic, soliciting and receiving money from sympathizers. I mean, basically, he would just meet with whoever would listen to his cause, which was to try and end the oppression and injustice against a black majority that was being ruled by a white minority, and all he was asking for was democracy and to let the people choose who they wanted to lead them. Now, the story of apartheid is not very different than many of the stories of civil unrest happening around us in countries all over the world at this very minute. Every corner of the world is suffering right now. In Myanmar, in Burma, in Egypt, in Yemen, and Syria, in Palestine, and Puerto Rico. If you say that these are all third world countries, well, it's the things that happen in these countries that impact the first world countries that we live in today. People are trying to get away from oppression and injustice from these countries, and they're pouring into places like the US and Europe and Australia. And When they think they've made it and they've reached safety and security, people here in the US, Europe, and Australia, first world countries, they hate on them and they tell them to go back to where they came from, and they launch vicious social media groups making fun of their cultures and their religions. And it's just so hard to see and accept what's happening before our very own eyes and to sit here and not do anything about it. Nelson Mandela has so many amazing quotes that it was hard at first to choose one for my fifth prompt. He gave a famous speech while in the Dock of Court in 1964, where he said, "During my lifetime, I have dedicated my life to this struggle of the African people. I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons will live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal for which I hope to live for and to see realized. But my Lord, if it needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die." That was almost going to be my quote, but I actually ended up using this one, which really hit home for me at this stage in my life right now. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love, for love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. And this quote gives me a lot of hope, and actually it issues a challenge to all those wanting to stand against oppression and injustice for all people. Showing kindness and teaching kids to accept and love instead of bully and shun are exactly how I raise my boys, and we all know how alarming bullying and suicide rates are amongst teens these days. Also, exposing ourselves to other cultures and foods is another way of learning about people and how they live and why they do what they do, and that's why travel is so important for me and my family. Nelson Mandela has a great quote that says, "Sometimes it falls upon a generation to be great. You can be that great generation." It's a great quote, and I say that to my kids every day. Whatever you're going to do, be great at it and do it well. Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for 27 years. He was released in 1990 by Prime Minister de Klerk, and he went straight back to what he was doing before he was jailed, campaigning for the end of oppression. The apartheid ended on the 27th of April 1994, and on the 9th of May, Mandela was elected as the first president of a democratic South Africa. He served for one term and stepped down in 1999. His retirement was filled with campaigning against AIDS and poverty in Africa. He's got some great quotes from this time. "Overcoming poverty is not a gesture of charity, it is a protection of a fundamental human right, the right to dignity and a decent life. As long as poverty, injustice, and gross inequality exist in our world, none of us can truly rest. Do not look the other way, do not hesitate, recognize that the world is hungry for action, not words. Act with courage and vision. Like slavery and apartheid, poverty is not natural. It is man-made, and it can be overcome and eradicated by the action of human beings. In this century, millions of people in the world's poorest countries remain imprisoned, enslaved, and in chains. They're trapped in the prison of poverty. It is time to set them free. While poverty persists, there is no true freedom. He was truly an influential figure in history. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Remember to check the description box below and to hop along to the other girls' videos to see what amazing layouts they created for this month's prompts. I wonder who they chose, and I wonder what quotes they used. I can't wait to watch too. And if this video inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe, and go ahead and create an art layout using these prompts. Don't forget to share it with me on Facebook or Instagram. You'll find my details below. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you in my next video.